Okay, now that we have our figure cropped and we selected our background color, the next step is to create a new layer for a silhouette and also create a new layer for our shadow. Okay, and that's actually going to be a duplicate of the same image. So first thing I'm going to do is make a new layer, and what I'm going to do is select all of everything that's in layer 1. I want to get the whole selection of the silhouette of the figure. So what I do is I hold down the command button, and you'll see that the icon changes. It has a dotted square, and I click, and so what it does, it commands the computer to select everything there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dump black inside of the selection into layer 2. So I'm going to make sure that the foreground is black, and I dump the color, make sure I'm on layer 2. Okay, it doesn't look like anything happened, but behind the figure is a nice clean silhouette. And I'm going to make a copy of this one. I'm going to drag it into the new layer window, make a copy of that layer, and one of them is going to be in front of the figure, layer 2, and the other one's going to be behind the figure, which is going to be used for the shadow. So for layer 2, at some point you're going to be lowering the opacity of this to allow the figure to show through. That's going to be a little later on. I can leave it like this, I can change it later. For layer 2 copy, I'm going to be making a shadow. To make a shadow, two things you're going to do. You're going to transform the layer, and then you're also going to put a gradient on it so it's not a solid black. So I'm going to go to Image, Transform, Distort, and I have the bounding box on layer 2 copy. You're going to drag it down, so like a parallelogram. But also what happens to a shadow as it gets farther away from your figure is it gets smaller. So I'm going to make the line that represents what's farther away from the figure, I'm going to make that smaller. So we're kind of working with perspective. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, you can modify it. You can do it a couple of times. So again, drag it on an angle. If you wanted the shadow to be back here, it would just be a matter of moving the figure. But the way I set it up, I have it set up there. You don't want it to be up here because it'll look like the figure is against a slanted wall. So you want to bring it kind of far down so it kind of gives the illusion of depth. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to select that layer again, how we did before. We held down the command button and we clicked. We're going to hit delete and get rid of that. The marching ants are still there. We're going to leave it. We're going to set up the gradient. The gradient that we are using is the second one. It's foreground to transparent. You want to make sure that the foreground color is black. If you changed it to another color, the foreground color to another color, you'll see that it is the foreground to transparent. So we want this one, but we need to have the background, or the foreground color rather, black. So we're picking this one. We're also going to move the opacity down to about 40 to 50%. And we are going to also make sure that we're on the linear gradient. You are going to drag a line from the toes, from what's closest to the figure out. Now this might be a little bit on the light side for your taste. So you can go back and you can keep going until it looks like something that you want. So it makes it look like a nice realistic shadow. Okay. Next steps are going to be colorizing the figure. We also need to select something to be white, and also the text. So we still have a couple more steps, but we're moving right along.